them all by
Down there.
myself. Yeah.
Matt, are you ready?
Today. I'm going to get started. The first thing I'm going to do is call to order, and just know that the meeting is being held in compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act and is open to the media and public. Notices have been duly posted, and the meeting was advertised in the Star Ledger and Courier News. Formal action may be taken. Can we have a roll call, sir?
Mrs. Cassidy.
Here.
Mrs. Fiore. Mr. Lopes.
Here.
Mrs. Menser. Mrs. Bogorski.
Here.
Mrs. Rad.
Here.
Mrs. Ryan. Mrs. DePinto.
Here.
Mr. Rizzo.
Okay, stand for flag salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next item is the superintendent's report, which is mainly going to be on the referendum. Before I get started, I just want to thank everyone that was involved. I know the administration, the board members, the staff. There's a lot of action taken over the last few months, and it was a great effort by everybody, which you'll see in our presentation. So on behalf of the board, thank you for your effort done over the last few months.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our February 25th Board of Education meeting. As Mr. Rizzo said, tonight's meeting is focused primarily on a bond referendum. And we'll go through several slides about our referendum. But to mirror Mr. Rizzo's comments, this is and has been a true collaborative and community effort up to this point. Our work toward a referendum has been not only months in the making of this past school year, but it has been years of discussion on and off with preparations for this evening and for the proposals to come forward to the community shortly. So this is a really exciting time for our school district. It's a time for us to reflect on the work that's been done, but it's also a really exciting time to look forward to the work that we can do to improve the educational experience for our students and to improve our infrastructure in the building as well. So with that excitement, we were so excited that we decided that we could do this presentation in no less than 91 slides. So there are 91 slides for the projects included in this bond referendum. And there are a team of folks here to present those slides because I can't do them all by myself. Of course, I'm here. Mr. Bohm, our business administrator, is going to present many of the slides. Mr. Race, our facilities manager, is here for any questions that anyone may have in regard to any of our equipment, our infrastructure, age, repair, cost of maintenance of material of some of our equipment. If need be, Mr. Race is here for those questions. Robbie Ancampora is from our bond advisor. Our bond counsel couldn't be with us tonight, so Robbie's from Phoenix Advisors. She's the one that crunches all the numbers. When our architect puts together the numbers, Robbie takes those numbers and converts them into what a bond would look like for the taxpayer. And our architects, Kevin and Rita Severino, will be joining us shortly. So those are everyone who's going to present tonight. So a bond referendum is a public vote that goes out to the taxpayer, the community members of Reddington, to approve the issuance of bonds for the Board of Education to go into debt to finance certain capital projects. When you own your own home, you and your spouse or your partner or significant others make a decision, we want to go into more debt. We have to go find someone that will issue that debt to us. They run a credit report, they do those kinds of things for individuals. Well, when a Board of Education wants to incur some debt to do projects around our house, our buildings, we need to ask the taxpayer first and say, we have this opportunity. We want to issue some debt, and that debt will allow us to go out for a bond, and that bond issuance will allow us to pay for projects. Why would a school district want to do this? Kind of like owning your own home. Sometimes you want to get maybe a home equity line of credit, or maybe you take a second mortgage out on your home because you want to do some things. You want to renovate your kitchen, you need a new roof, you need a new boiler in your home. And sometimes that project doesn't fit within your household operating budget, and you might want to take out some debt in order to make that project fit. A bond is pretty much the same thing for a school district. There's no shortage of projects here within the district, and sometimes it's best to go out and borrow money so that we can accomplish more than we would if we just built things into our local budget. In addition, state aid is available for certain eligible projects. If a roof costs $1 million to put on Hollenbrook School, the state could pay for up to 30 to 40% of that project. So it's like a reimbursement kind of credit from the state that you can get when you go out for bond referendum. If we build that roof project into the budget, the taxpayer and Board of Education would pay the full freight of the $1 million rather than getting some subsidy from the state. The bond and principal interests are outside the cap payment, and it provides the board with the ability to finance major capital projects over the useful life of projects. Mr. Race, Mr. Bohm will tell you that some of our equipment is coming up to end of life. We need to refurbish some of our equipment, some of our HVAC units, some of our air handlers, some of the roofing areas of part of our buildings. We need to do these projects, and we need to do them soon. And a bond referendum will allow us to do it sooner rather than later. When can we go out for a vote? The Board of Education can choose from these 5 dates to ask the taxpayer about a bond referendum. There are 4 times during the school year: September, December, and January would be special elections. November would be, and March would be a special election. November would be the general election that's aligned with state, local, and national elections as well. And things that have been considered for a bond referendum: the existing school debt, the status of our facilities, proposed costs and escalation of those costs given inflation, capital and other reserve balances, the future growth and the needs of the district, the impact to the taxpayer, and our borrowing capacity. Basically, the Board of Ed has a credit rating, and we have borrowing capacity as well as market rates. So these are all of the things that we've thought about up until this point in making our proposal to the board tonight to go out for a referendum. So just this year, let's back up to September 2024. Like Mr. Rizza mentioned, like I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, this has been a really community effort. In September, Mr. Bowman and I went out to faculty meetings at each one of the school buildings, and we told the staff in the buildings, we're going out, we're considering, the Board of Education is considering a bond referendum. We want your ideas. We want the input of the teachers, the faculty, those that are in the schools every day, those that are working with our children every day. What are your thoughts and ideas for projects that we should consider? And we got a lot of feedback, which was great. We did that September, we did that October, and I want to mention too that all of the feedback we received, and I'm sure Mr. Bowman mentioned this as well, even if it's not in the referendum, the nice thing about all the feedback that we received from the community is the fact that we've now put it on a list called our long-range facility plan, and if we don't achieve a project in our referendum, we have plans to do it with our capital and our maintenance reserves as well. In October, we also had meetings with critical stakeholder groups like our HSA, our RTA, members of the Township of Reddington, and any other groups that we felt that we needed to reach out to in order to get their feedback. The idea was, what are the projects that are important to those that are in our district that use our facilities every day, our students, our parents, our teachers. In November, there were architect walkthroughs. That helped us prioritize projects. Our architects have joined us tonight with their engineer, did the walkthroughs as well. We held an open public forum on December 3rd before we even decided on any of the projects that you'll see tonight. And the purpose of that public forum was to gather more ideas for projects to be included in the referendum. And then we had both our bond council and our architects talk about the process with the Board of Education on December 10th. Again, another opportunity to add in some ideas for a non-referendum. In January, we had some committee meetings about the referendum. In February, we did some walkthroughs, and we had another finance committee meeting, which brings us tonight, which is the business in front of the board this evening is a vote on the finance portion of the agenda to move forward with the referendum, and it includes the list of projects, and that's what we are tonight in terms of our timeline. So we had stakeholder collaboration, I mentioned, the HSA, district staff, the public, and the township. Our architect came through and did walkthroughs with his engineer, but something that we did a little bit differently this year was board walkthroughs. The staff will recall that a couple of weeks ago, the board, along with myself, Mr. Bone, Mr. Race, did walkthroughs to the buildings to look at some of the recommendations the architect was making, to look at some of the recommendations that Mr. Race was making, the recommendations I was making in terms of the facility upgrade that was needed, which was a real commitment and a unique commitment from the Board of Education to want to come out and see with their own eyes and feel the experience that teachers have every day and our students have every day to really understand why these projects were in the referendum. So for that, the board should be commended for just taking the time to walk all 4 buildings and have a meeting. As soon as we ended our one of our walkthroughs, we had a finance committee meeting where we sat and prioritized projects, and it was really important work. Our finance committee worked to help work with Jason and I to prioritize these projects, and the projects that you will see tonight in this presentation, only 81 slides left to go. In this presentation, the projects that you will see are the projects that made a priority list. The priority lists include projects that are major facilities upgrades. You'll hear about fire alarm systems, PA systems, building management systems. We also have many priority projects that are maintenance and infrastructure related. New roofs, paving in certain buildings, HVAC replacements, boiler replacements, new doors, new door locks. Safety and security is clearly a priority, and we're going to look to even enhance safety and security measures within the school as well. And then, of course, the student experience. There are projects in the referendum that are directly related to a student experience every day in the classroom. Upgrading our smart boards, ensuring that we have the safest but upgraded playgrounds for use of all children. Children that may have disabilities and children without, so that they're handicapped accessible, so that students with wheelchairs can access the playgrounds as easily as any other child. Enhancements to furniture to be more comfortable for our students, and other student experiences. So the board, the administration really tried to balance the facilities and maintenance needs of the district with the student experience needs. We priority ranked projects 1 through 5. 1 was the highest priority project. Those were projects that were needed for critical infrastructure, but they were also projects that school principals and other administrators said are really important to the student experience here in Remington. As mentioned before, any projects not making the referendum are going to be in the long-range facilities plan. We'll talk about this a little bit later, so don't worry. If the feedback that you feel like you gave to the board and the administration doesn't appear on this presentation, know that we still have those projects and we've included them and we'll achieve them in another way. The costs that we've come up with include construction, contingencies, prevailing wages, escalations, as well as the 34% state aid eligibility. And then time frame, we talk about in the presentation how quickly we want to do some of these repairs to achieve some of these projects. All schools will be impacted by the referendum. I mentioned this in one of our public forums. All schools were created equal, so all schools will not get equal funding for the referendum. The referendum, however, will not create any inequities in between buildings. It will keep equity in buildings, but we have buildings that are larger, we have buildings that are older. Those are the buildings that you may see may get more funding. Buildings that are newer or buildings that have just received a new roof, let's say in the past 3 years, may not have as many projects in the referendum, but there are definitely projects in every building. So the referendum will touch every building as far as the projects. And I'll introduce Mr. Bone. to take us through the next 75 slides.
No pressure. Thank you, everyone. So we're gonna go one school by one school, so that way everyone knows exactly what's in the referendum. There was about 83 projects that made the referendum. And in addition, there's about a dozen or so projects that we're gonna actually do with this current year's funding through our general budget to accomplish now. Anything that doesn't make it, Dr. Hart mentioned, is going to long facilities committee. So first, we're starting with our middle school, and we're gonna work our way down to the elementary buildings. Bradenton Middle School was built in 1962, so about 60 years old. And the total referendum projects that are in the proposal are $13 million. Now you see we categorized each building into two main areas. One was infrastructure and maintenance that Dr. Hart talked about, and the other is the student experience. We're starting with infrastructure and maintenance because there are needs that our buildings have to get done. And with $750,000 in capital reserves, without a referendum, we might not be able to do these projects. First, and I'm not going to go into detail on all of these, but first is our electrical panel that powers half the building, as well as supplies power to our internet, is over 60 years old. And it could, if failed, cause power outage to half the building and loss of internet for the entire district. So that has made the referendum as the first item for the middle school. You'll see a recurring theme here, fire alarm systems. Fire alarm systems are significantly outdated. Each building needs to be updated, and it's a safety and security matter. Roof replacement. So one of the great things about the board and the district over the years is we've been able to replace roofs using capital reserves without impact to the taxpayers. The building that we are currently in, Hollenbrook School, we did $4 million of roof replacements without any referendum over the past 4 years. We've also replaced a good portion of RMS roof this past year and the year before, including the front office and the back gym and the art room. So we've been able to accomplish all that without a referendum, but the other parts of the buildings need roof replacements, and you'll see that as a common theme. What we've done is included a slide for each of the buildings based on the age of the roof, public to see, and how urgent the repair of the roof is required. A lot of the buildings have leaks in them from aging roofs, and the roofs that are in the referendum are not in warranty anymore, which basically means that the district has to pay for those repairs. When we get a new roof, it usually is warranted between 25 and 30 years, which means repairs are free because they're included in the base contract, that they have to come back out and repair things in case there's a leak. So Hollenbrook School is a great example. For the next 25 years or so, we will have that vendor come back out and repair leaks. We're hoping to do that at the other buildings, so that way safety and air quality is the best possible. Boilers. So boilers can last a long time. And we could keep going along with boilers, but when they need replacement, they're close to $1 million. So our current reserves of $750,000, we couldn't even replace the boiler, one of the two boilers that exist at RMS. So you'll see a recurring theme here is boiler replacement, which provide heat for our buildings. A lot of HVAC. So this is air conditioning and heat for the building. Some of the air valves in particular are nearing complete failure. So we have to repair those pretty quickly and significantly throughout the course of the year. There's actually a part that, if it needs repair, has to be custom built by a machine shop now because the parts are not available. So to put in perspective, that's how old our HVAC systems are. Integrated building management system. So this is what controls the HVAC systems and the boilers in our buildings. This is nearing end of life and support from Microsoft. And this is actually the controls that optimize our buildings to save energy district-wide. So before optimization, our district was paying over $1 million per year in utility costs. With optimization through the building management system, we are below $600,000. So we're saving about $400,000 to $500,000 per year because of these controls. And we've been doing that for over a decade. Paving. So you guys all know that paving is critically important for safety. And there's two main buildings that need paving desperately. First is the middle school, and then we'll get into Three Bridges later on. The upper parking lot of the middle school, which is where parent pickup and drop off are nearing end of life and are turning to gravel in certain parts. So when we repave the school, not only are we going to repave, but we're going to add parking spots. We're going to add more spots so that way for night activities and parent visits and concerts, parents can come and community members can come, but also for teaching staff. Teaching staff, some of them have to park very far away and walk during snow and ice, and our hope is to create a lot more parking spots very close to the building. The PA system. So this is if there's a security lockdown or drill, this is the system that announces it. This is nearing end of life. And integrating this into IT is becoming incredibly challenging. To put in perspective, that picture in the middle right there, that is a non-operational speaker. So I'm actually showing you a speaker that doesn't work anymore. Our IT department has done a great job troubleshooting to put in wireless speakers throughout the building for safety reasons currently, but this is decades old and needs to be replaced sooner rather than later. Rekeying lock sets. So you'll see a lot of lock sets are original to the building, so are the doors. And to optimize safety and security, our plan is to replace hardware district-wide. So that'll be a recurring theme, and to enhance the safety and security of lockdown drills to keep staff and students safe. And one of the biggest things in Hunterdon County is losing power. So we've had to call school canceled because of power losses, and we've also had to move kids entirely out of one building to another building for a school day to not be impacted. When we lose power, we lose water. When we lose water, we lose bathrooms. So that is something that the general public really doesn't know about. We have other systems that keep operation for safety and security for about 3 to 4 hours, including internet. But one of the things that we're including in the referendum is full building backup generators. So that way, the whole building can be operated and continue operations when we lose power. And this is in each of the buildings at the cost that you see on the screen. Moving on, education and student center project at the middle school. So first, renovating recess fields. So this was a direct request from principals and staff. Each student at the middle school, which is close to 400 students, use this every single day. And the goal is to renovate this, repave the basketball courts which have cracks in them, get new basketball hoops, more outdoor areas to sit, and better areas to play. Kids, from elementary to the high school, they sometimes lose the ability to go out and play during recess and have that informal relationship building. So this was a priority that the middle school wanted to have included in the referendum. There's been a lot of ideas thrown around on how to enhance this area, but ideas have included things like pickleball courts, basketball courts, gaga pit, other things like that of that nature. So that way, not only can our staff use them, but also a club or a sport could use them, and potentially the public could use them after 2:30 or on weekends for free. So I know the pickleball courts are very popular at Summer Road Park. This essentially would probably double the amount of pickleball courts in the township. New athletic track. So over 100 students use the athletic track annually. In addition, our staff walk the track as part of their ability to get outside and take breaks. We also have members of the community that walk dogs and have their children come and use our facilities after hours. And the track is basic gravel. It was donated for free to us, and maintenance is incredibly challenging on it because it is literally stone dust on dirt. So you can imagine when it rains, divots and hazards that are presented. So the goal in the referendum would be to make this rubberized. We're not talking about a turf field. What we're talking about is just the rubberization of a track for clubs and sports and for the community to use. Renovation of the media center, which is also the library, has been proposed as part of the referendum. This would allow us to completely redo the entire space. Flooring, carpet, furniture, modernize it for the children, for the learning environment, have different aspects built into it that include anything from media to books and relaxation areas. And one of the big focuses of the board and the district is ELA, English Language Arts, so this has been a priority because of that. Window treatments, so something that you would say, why is this in a referendum? The cost of window treatments is significant. We have been trying to redo window treatments at a lower cost for years and have not been able to find a cost-effective way to do it within our reserves. So this is in the referendum primarily for security reasons. A lot of our window treatments are handmade and not ideal. You can see one's even ripped on the screen. And this is done for security purposes during lockdown drills to block view of sight into the classrooms. So this is part of the referendum, and you will see that as part of the other building as well. And new furniture, Dr. Hart mentioned this and talked about this, particularly at RMS. Some of the students that use these furniture on a daily basis, it's different in every classroom. So if you look at furniture, some are metal, some are plastic, they're ripped. So we're hoping that as part of our referendum, we can replace that and make it more ideal for student learning long term, as well as the teaching staff. So I'm going to take a break for 5 seconds, catch my breath, and then we're going to move on to Hollenbrook School. I'm going to try to get through the rest.
I can do Hollenbrook. We want to go back and forth. I'll do Hollenbrook. You do the next one.
Sure. Yeah. I think Dr. Hart's taking Hollenbrook because it's the shortest one. But I will appreciate his taking over for me.
It is the shortest one. Hollenbrook School was built in 1999. Actually, this year, just to mention to the board and the community, I know Dr. Moss and the staff are planning a 25-year anniversary for Hollenbrook School, so a celebration will come this spring. And the total referendum proposals for Hollenbrook is about $6.5 million. So we'll start with our infrastructure and maintenance projects at Hollenbrook School. Mr. Bowman mentioned replacing the systems. This is going to be another theme throughout the district. Remember, I mentioned earlier, all buildings weren't made equal, but we're also not looking to create inequity. So fire alarm systems are out of date, and they're becoming more challenging to maintain. We're going to include them in the referendum. So this is one of those projects that's equal and has some parity across the district. Because this is 25-year-old equipment, it's important to update and upgrade at this point, and it is a priority for Hollenbrook. Replacing all of the rooftop units, the air conditioning, HVAC units, air conditioning and heating units that are on top of the building. This is the largest portion of the project here at Hollenbrook School. It's over $3 million, $3.7 million worth of work. These HVAC units are 25 years old, all of them. They're nearing their end of their useful life. They're resulting in failures. Mr. Race will tell you that parts and repairs are becoming more challenging and more prevalent. And we want to ensure that our HVAC equipment provides the most optimal and healthy environment for the kids and for the staff. So this is another priority project. The integrated building management system was mentioned with RMS as well, and this is nearing end of life, is not supported by Microsoft. This is our ability to manage all of our HVAC systems remotely through the computer service. Race has one building management system. Repaving the playground areas, blacktop areas, the basketball courts, they have major cracks. So for student safety, we want to do some repaving as well. And then rekeying our lock sets for our interior doors. Again, this is one of those quality things among the buildings. If we're going to keep consistency among all buildings on how we respond to a lockdown drill and how we lock our doors, we want to make sure it's consistent throughout the buildings. So all buildings are getting new locks that are easier and would hopefully eliminate the need to have the magnet. It would just be simple to hit a button, flick a switch, and your door is locked. Teachers would know that their door is locked with a notice on the door so that they wouldn't have to worry about removing magnets or whether the door is really locked or not in an emergency situation. It would tell them from the interior. Installing a new backup generator, again, so when we lose power, we can still operate our buildings. And education and student-centered projects. Replacing the interactive whiteboards in all classrooms to the newly updated Epson boards or something similar that we have in the middle school. These are also nearing end of life. When they get past software support and manufacturer support, they're not optimal, so it's best to upgrade them when you can. We're going to add a life skills suite for our life skills students. So the students at the middle school who are in the life skills program have a classroom of their own that includes functional living skills like a home, washer and dryer, a dishwasher, a stove, a refrigerator, so that they can learn life skills. And we have a suite like that at the middle school that's in a classroom. We don't have that at Hollenbrook. We have a life skills program. We have a great integrated program where they use the faculty lounge and they do the dishes and clean up and put them back for the teachers. The teacher has developed a really nice program for the students to learn about all of this, about just these basic how you operate a home skill. And we'd like to be able to provide that for the teacher in her classroom so that she doesn't have to move down to the teacher's lounge. I don't know who's going to do the teacher's dishes when we provide the life skills suite, but we will provide this for our students with special needs because it's an area of need for these students, and it's an important skill that they need to know before going to middle school and beyond. We've built in funding to renovate the media center, not as extensive as a renovation at the middle school, but certainly a redesign if the library would like it, some new furniture, as well as removing the carpet and making sure that the librarian has all of the materials and furniture that she needs, and maybe new shelving or different shelving should she request it. I'll turn it over to Jason for Three Bridges School. Say that was quick, wasn't it? I think the right one.
Make you look bad.
Three Bridges. There you go. I'll take White House. That's a long one.
There you go. Oh, that is.
Yeah.
Three Bridges School. So this is one of our oldest buildings. Dr. Hart will have the oldest building. This building was built in 1950, so it's over 70 years old. And you will see Three Bridges and White House homes have identical referendum proposals, which makes sense not only because they're similar ages, but they're also K-3 buildings or pre-K through 3 buildings. So having them be equal and consistent is important. So infrastructure projects, fire alarm system, you see a recurring theme here, replacing that, as well as roof replacement. So we have solar panels on our roofs, but there's also, we're not talking about replacing the roofs that have solar panels on them. We're talking about roofs that are no longer under warranty, that are over 20 years old. HVAC, recurring theme here. This in particular, I'd like to just highlight the Airedale systems at Three Bridges, which fail frequently and are directly in the classrooms. So those are the ones that are a big focus at Three Bridges to be replaced for the teachers and students. And a lot of those are in the kindergarten and first grade wing. which is our youngest students. Integrated building management system, we talked about that, so we're being consistent from building to building, as well as repaving. So Three Bridges School actually probably has the worst paving need at all the districts. There is actually a natural spring underneath it that we actually used reserve money to cap because it was freezing water where staff had to enter the building. So it was a safety hazard. We were able to address that about 4 or 5 years ago. But you can imagine how much damage that natural occurring spring created, as well as paving issues. There's also a need to redesign that back parking lot because it is angled to have water rush towards the building, which is not optimal, particularly when it freezes or snows. So the goal there would be to completely redesign the parking lot in the back, provide more parking, but also get the water away from the building for safety reasons. Exterior doors. So we have graciously from the township a partnership that allows us to have 4 police officers in each of our buildings that are trained with the police department, and they go around and assess exterior doors every single day. They make sure that they're locked, and as part of their protocols, they also report doors that need replacement. We have been able to do repairs on certain doors, but there are doors that need to be fully replaced. So in the referendum, our goal is to replace exterior doors that need replacement, so that way safety and security is paramount. And obviously corridor doors, this is again not only hardware, but some of the older doors here need replacement, as well as some other security enhancements, so you'll see that common theme. One of the unique things to Three Bridges is windows. So the windows there actually do need replacement. Some of them are actually embedded outwards in the building, and that causes the rain to fall directly onto the window itself. It's not on the side of the building, and those windows have water penetration right now. So the goal would be to completely redo those buildings, remove them, and have windows replaced entirely. So our maintenance team has done a great job troubleshooting those problems to date, but for air quality purposes, the goal is, and security purposes, the goal is to replace those windows, as well as the window shades, which you'll see in the next slide. Another unique thing is our renovation of the toilets. So we were able to, through reserves, renovate most of the toilets district-wide. We did that when I started here in 2017 through 2020 at most of the schools. And there are some toilets that have not been included as part of that renovation. So one of those is listed here, and there's some pictures that show the age of those bathroom facilities. Exterior lighting. So we have exterior lighting at 2 of our buildings and minimal lighting at Three Bridges and White House. So current inequity that we're trying to fix. We would install exterior lights that are on a timer for both White House and Three Bridges, and those will allow for night functions if we have an event that, say, the HSA needs, or trunk or treat, or night activities, so that way the teachers who leave during the winter also are not walking in the dark when there's ice to their cars. So it's a safety matter as well. So our goal is to install lights that have timers on them and are optimized so not to disrupt the neighbors, but also provide that safety and ability to have night functions if we so desire. And then we talked about the backup generator already. We're making sure each building has that. And just so you know, the photos on there, those are generators just for our walk-in refrigerator and some other critical things. They're not full backup generators. We do not have that currently. Education projects at Three Bridges. Dr. Hart mentioned whiteboards, so we're going to be a consistent theme there. This is one of the most important things for student instruction. So replacing those and making sure that they are not end of life with Microsoft is important. So we're including those at all the elementaries. So we're good for another 10 years. Dr. Hart mentioned playgrounds early in the presentation. And this dollar amount represents an entirely new playground designed from scratch. So it includes ripping out the existing playgrounds and building them so they're more accessible and safe, because a lot of them are also have issues with rust, and we have taken entire parts off of the playground and removed structures because of the age. These structures are decades old and need replacement in the next 5 to 10 years, even without the referendum. And then we talk about cubbies in the first grade preschool. So this was requested by the principals and staff. One of the things you'll see on the pictures here is that students, in some cases, can't put their book bags in the cubbies because they're too small. So they're really used for other purposes when it would be more optimal to have cubbies that work for purpose and function for the students and the staff. So we've included that in the referendum. And I'll turn over to Dr. Hart to finish up with White House School.
Thank you, Jason. White House School was built in 1960. The original part of the building celebrated their 100-year anniversary, actually not too long ago. And the total referendum proposal here is almost $9 million. Again, replacing the fire alarm system. Again, a theme, all fire alarm systems are going to be replaced throughout the district to maintain the safety of our students and our staff. Replacing interior fire doors. So this is slightly different. There are fire doors that are required between certain sections of the building to block off sections of the building from one another, so it prevents fire from spreading. We would replace these interior fire doors to ensure that we have the most updated equipment, materials to prevent fire spread. Replacing the roof over the gym, classrooms, and media center. So there's areas of the building you can see closer to the front or the bottom of the slide, the front of the building, where there's a classroom wing and then there's a gym roof that will be replaced. Replacing the HVAC units and Airedale. So there are Airedale units at White House as well, and various rooftop units that do need replacing. Again, this is a large dollar amount because it's various HVAC units as well as multiple Airedales, primarily in that first grade hallway at White House School. The integrated building management system as well will be replaced. Again, this is uniform district-wide. We're paving the playground area, ensuring that our blacktop is safe. This is out near the outdoor map area in the sensory garden. We want to make sure that we fill the cracks, that we repave for the safety of our students, and we want to make sure that we keep the paving maintained so that it doesn't continue to crack or collapse. Replacing exterior doors as well, similar to White House School. There are some exterior doors that are 2 decades old. When staff or parents enter the building, because the doors automatically close behind them, there's this assumption that the door swings shut. And sometimes if there's a catch or there's a problem with the casing or the latch, that's not always the case, and you have to pull the door shut. We want to make sure that all of the doors shut as optimally as possible and as safely as possible without having to worry about reaching behind us and closing them. Replacing the corridor doors, so various doors throughout the building that are not fire-rated doors, but their existing wood doors would be replaced as well. New window treatments, another theme here. White House and Three Bridges have their first grade preschool wings were built around the same time, and they all have window treatments that look like that are probably from when they were built back in the 70s and haven't been replaced. This is something that's been requested by the principals and staff to include in the referendum, and as Jason mentioned, does have a cost to it that we've been trying to achieve when we built it into the referendum. Excuse me. Upgrading parking lot lights. Again, for evening events or just, in the winter months when staff leave White House and Three Bridges, it's gonna begin to get dark because it's 4 o'clock, or some staff stay till 5, 6 o'clock at night. We wanna make sure that we have proper lighting in the parking lots. This would also allow the HSA to have evening events with some lighting, although I know that they often borrow the township big light for those events. There's some paving that needs to be done and concrete repair that needs to be done at White House School for safety purposes. Most of the blacktop is in pretty good shape, but we want to make sure that we repair any concrete areas or walkways for the students and for the staff. The backup generators as well, so that if we lose power, we can still operate our buildings. And education and student-centered projects. The whiteboards at both White House and Three Bridges are around the same age, and it's important to update those to ensure that they stay within our infrastructure and our support, our software support. Another playground, and when we say special needs playground, what we mean is not just a specialized program for students with special needs. We mean a playground that is accessible for all students. So it would be a complete replacement of the playground, but it would be inclusive of playground equipment for students with special needs as well. New classroom cubbies. This again is in the first grade wing. There are outdated and old cubby areas that are too small sometimes for student use. And they're wood, and they just need to be replaced. So, what if a project did not make the referendum? So, this is our first public presentation of everything that's included in the referendum. But as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, there's a lot of idea generating went on behind the scenes and with the public back in September through December. We have a really great list of projects for the district. If it didn't, we have several options. We have capital and maintenance reserves, I think around $750 million as of now. With the referendum moving forward, we anticipate that we can rebuild our capital and maintenance reserves over the next several years and begin to accomplish some projects through our capital and maintenance reserves. There are things like flooring, water heater replacements, gym mats, bleacher repairs. Some of them are low dollar amounts, and some can be achieved through capital and maintenance reserves. Some might even be able to be included in a future operating budget as well. We know of those projects, we've made them a priority, and we're going to include them. You'll notice that there's limited technology projects included in the referendum. Some of our technology projects, like wireless access points and network switches, are eligible for E-rate funding, which is 40% from the federal government. We've included projects like that to be part of either future operating budgets or capital or maintenance reserves. We've also achieved grants from the state of New Jersey called ROD grants, regular operating district grants, and they're for districts to make improvements for certain purposes. We've received grants to improve bathrooms or increase bathrooms at Three Bridges School with state aid grant of 40% of the cost of those projects. And all of the projects will be included in our 5-year long-range facilities plan. So the tax impact. I'm going to give this over, turn it over to Jason, and Bobby is here if you have any questions about the tax impact of all of these projects on the taxpayer.
So the par amount of bonds, so our bonds are expiring in 2027, existing bonds. So what we're talking about with referendum is issuing new bonds that coincide with the expiration. So that way there's no tax impact locally. The duration would be 20 years, which is identical to the current one. The borrowing rate is 4% in this example. Could be lower than that in reality. But right now, the taxpayers are paying more than what we're putting forward in this referendum. So on an average house of $452,000 in the district, currently the taxpayer is paying $278 per year. So right now, every single person in the township is, if you had the average home, is paying $278 on debt. That ends in 2027. So with the referendum, we're hoping to replace that with new debt that will be $261 per year, which is basically savings to the taxpayers of $17 per year. So passing the referendum will have a lowering of existing taxes. So what are the next steps?
Say that again, Jason, just one more time.
Went back.
Just one more, just for fun.
I paused on purpose. If the taxpayers pass the referendum, it will lower taxes compared to what you currently pay. So the hope is that our goal, and the board's goal, and we even heard it when we went around to the teaching staff, to stay below the current existing debt. So we made sure we stayed at that number below, and we wanted to make sure that the taxpayers and towns saved money. So our hope is to pass this because we have a significant amount of projects. To quote the architect, one of the most amount of projects ever in a referendum that he has seen. The goal is to get a lot of bang for our buck and do things that are really needed. I mean, talking about HVAC and security for the most part. So lowering taxes and accomplishing all of that is a wonderful thing. So what are some next steps? Board of Education has to vote this evening to send it to the state for our ability to do a referendum. Our architect has to do a variety of paperwork for each project submitted to the state along with cost estimates. So drawings and cost estimates for over 80 projects. So they have their work cut out for them, and they have to do that by the end of March. So a very short window of time frame for them in order for us to do a fall vote. So the public vote to pass the referendum will be in the fall. So the board has been targeting a fall vote. The timelines are the same, whether it's September, special elections, or November. The only difference really between those two items are the cost. And a referendum in November is free, and a referendum and a special election is at cost, somewhere between $23,000 and $40,000, depending on the time available at polling stations. If the referendum passes, Robbie, who's here tonight, will have her work cut out for her because she will have to work on issuing that debt to the public market and secure financing. We've talked to our bond attorney, Tony Salamini, who was here for previous presentations, and the goal is to make sure that there's no impact on the taxpayers. So the issuance of bonds will be strategic to allow us to get funding when we need it, and that allows us to do projects not this coming summer, but potentially next summer, and not make a debt payment until 2028. Further, because Dr. Hart mentioned the state aid, basically the state pays for our interest. So the bonding is a great mechanism with the state aid because we will get money to finance these projects, but the state, in essence, will be giving us money to offset the interest we have to pay over those 20 years, which also allows us to have the money sitting in the bank and earn interest on it. So it's kind of this weird mechanism where we're borrowing money, but we're not really paying interest, and we're collecting some interest on money in the bank. So it's kind of a weird situation, but it's a good mechanism that the state allows for. Once we have money, we can start construction. And we would always start construction based on priority 1 items first, and things we can get done the quickest. The longest lead time is HVAC and things of that nature. So paving, HVAC will take a little bit longer than some other projects, which can be done immediately, which is like blinds and windows, things like that. If you want to learn more, we have a referendum website on the homepage. So I encourage you to check it out. And if you have questions, variety of ways you can reach out. You can come see us at the board office. You can email, call, you can look at the website. We're readily available. I'll turn it back to Dr. Howard to wrap up.
Um, So thank you all. I know that this was probably 58 minutes at this point of a presentation, but it's an important presentation. I remember when we were here over the summer and we had our board retreat, we were in the back of the room, and at one point we were talking with our retreat facilitator about the fact that we had debt expiring and we might consider going out for another referendum. And I remember, because she was a former superintendent, I remember her taking a step back, and I'll never forget it. And she went, "That's opportunity for you folks. This is opportunity for us. We have expiring debt, and then we can reissue new debt for bonds for an opportunity to take all of these projects and create a fantastic experience for our students here in Reddington." So it's really a nice opportunity we have. It's striking at the perfect time that we have debt expiring and we can reissue extra debt, or not extra, new debt. And as Jason said, save the taxpayer some money. So just think of this as opportunity. This is an opportunity for the kids of Reddington. And truthfully, in going out for referendum vote, many of these projects are eligible for that 34% state aid. Why shouldn't the community of Reddington get their hands on some of that money, right? We all pay state taxes. It's there, it's available. Let's make sure that the children of Reddington take advantage of that. So I think that the most important thing we'd like to leave you with today is this is opportunity, and it's opportunity that comes with extra funding from the state, and let's give the kids that opportunity to get that. So we are all here for questions. So we have our architects, our bond, with our bond counsel from Phoenix Advisors. Robbie's here and Don's here as well. So what questions do you have as a board event? Karen.
It's a 20-year commitment of debt. So is there a timeline for the projects to be done over that 20-year time frame, or is it all front-loaded as far as, like, how quickly do we start?
I'll have Jason and Don answer the question too. And I think that a lot of it's front-loaded, but I'll let them talk in more detail.
It really depends on a variety of things. So we want to do projects probably in the first 3 years. And the reason for that is prevailing wage. So we are required to have union labor, and that rate is significantly more than what you would be paying at home, which is why the cost that's reflective on the slides is so high, because we have to pay that rate for all the trades persons that work on the facility. So our goal would be to do it sooner rather than later, not over 20 years, but maybe over the next 3-4 years, and prioritize projects that we can get done sooner rather than later, but potentially also spread out a few of the HVAC systems, so that way not everything is coming end of life at 20 years. So if that helps. Okay.
Got this question actually from my governance training this past weekend, but are we considering using any local contractors or businesses to perform any of these repairs and replacements?
I'll actually turn it over to Don, because Don oversees almost all of the maintenance and capital projects.
We do use a variety of local vendors for contractors. We go through co-ops, local co-ops, or state contracts that are vetted. These companies are vetted to be good, and their pricing is great. So we try to use them over any other, and a lot of them are local guys. Our local plumbers are here in Hillsborough. Our roofers are here in New Jersey. So we do use those local vendors who are set up to work in schools. You have to be set up and bonded to work in schools. We can't just hire anybody to come and work in a school. They need to be licensed in New Jersey to work in schools. So we do use a lot of local vendors.
we did such a great job with 91 slides that you don't have any questions. There may be questions that come from the public. Mr. Rizza, if it's okay with you, Jason and I will go take a seat, but we also have any member from our team here that can answer questions from the public in case there are any, if that's all right. Okay. Thank you.
Right, well, thank you, Jason. Thank you, Dr. Hart, for your presentation. The next item on the agenda is open to the public for items that are on the agenda, which includes the referendum or any other items that you'll see that we're talking about, such as the committee reports. So if you would like to speak, please come to the podium, write your name, state your town, and let us know your thoughts. Wow. Amazing.
There's nothing online either.
Nothing online. Okay, so we'll go to the next item. Okay, we did receive one correspondence that we did respond to. The next item after that is the approval of the administrative reports. So can I get a motion to adopt 1.01 and then also a second?
Justina.
Second. Okay, thank you. Any comments? Okay, done.
Mrs. Cassidy,
Yes.
Mr. Lopes,
Yes.
Mrs. Menzer,
Yes.
Mrs. Bogorski,
Yes.
Mrs. Rad,
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan,
Yes.
Mrs. DePinto,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo,
Yes.
passes.
Okay. The next item is the approval of the minutes. So can I get a motion and then a second to adopt 2.01 and 2.02? Second. Okay, any discussion? Okay, so vote.
Mrs. Cassidy,
Yes.
Mr. Lopes,
Yes.
Mrs. Menzer,
Abstain?
Mrs. Bogorski,
Yes.
Mrs. Rad,
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan,
Yes.
Mrs. DePinto,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo,
Yes.
passes.
Okay. The next we're going to be moved into committee reports. The first one is the finance and facilities. We also have quite a few items to approve. The big one is the referendum, which is 3 pages long. So when we get to it, so you could go to that, it's 3.03. So before we go in action those items, Michelle, you have a
Yes, I have the committee report.
Yep.
So the finance committee met on Thursday, February 13th. The main topic was the referendum and expiring debt. We met and reviewed the prioritized project lists from all board members across all 4 schools, taking into account adjustments from non-finance committee members made after the tours of the schools were completed, projects that would be included in the proposed referendum, and projects that were unable to be considered at this time were reviewed in detail. In addition to considering board priorities and administrative input on critical projects, adjustments were also made when other funding sources could potentially fund projects such as E-rate, ROD grants, and capital reserves in order to fully utilize referendum funds to support school improvements. The committee agreed to review offline a summary of the proposed project list in preparation for the board meeting tonight. The plan to communicate with the community on selected projects for the referendum was discussed, including the potential to engage with the RTEA and the HSA. The next meetings are planned for March 4th and April 2nd.
Thank you. Okay, so can I get a motion and a second for 3.01 and 3.04?
Justina.
Second. Any discussion on any items? Okay, Mr. Bowman?
Mrs. Cassidy,
Yes.
Mr. Lopes,
Yes.
Mrs. Menzer,
Yes.
Mrs. Bogorski,
Yes.
Mrs. Rad,
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan,
Yes.
Mrs. DePinto,
Yes, except I abstain from check number 065029 on the bill list.
Mr. Rizzo,
Yes.
passes.
Okay, the next one is the education technology report. We're gonna have 4 items, so I know you have been reading the committee report.
Yes, there's a committee report. The Ed Tech Committee met on February 21st at 8:30 a.m.
The first thing we discussed was student achievement data presentation with comparison data and mid-year diagnostics. Dr. Brown and Mrs. Pouch presented the district's NJSLA comparison data and mid-year iReady diagnostic reports. When in years past, we were only able to see our district NJSLA scores compared to the state average, we are now able to compare our results with neighboring districts. When looking at the latest assessment, Readington students are either on par or outperforming surrounding districts. On the iReady mid-year diagnostics, just about every grade level has achieved 50% growth or more, which is what the district expects to see midway through the year. These reports will be shared with building principals for them to identify goals for short-term action plans in any areas that need continued short-term growth. The Spring Teacher Academy was discussed. Mrs. Cryle gave a report on the Spring Teacher Academy, which is currently underway. Teacher Academy is an in-house after-school professional program that began in 2010. This spring session runs through mid-May. There are 18 different sessions running, and they are open to all staff members and even to teachers in surrounding districts if there are seats available. The next item we reviewed was the Parent Academy. The Parent Academy will be on March 26th at 6 p.m. at Hollenbrook School. Mrs. Cryle shared information about the Parent Academy Night, which is a fairly new initiative to invite parents to participate in a night of learning. There will be 4 different sessions this year, a half hour each, on topics relating to student wellness. Planning is underway and more details will be shared at our next meeting. Mrs. Cryle also shared the March in-service draft agenda, which takes place on March 14th. The day will begin with a keynote speaker regarding dyslexia. Breakout sessions will be a mix of mandatory training, department meetings, and subject area specific topics. There will be food vendors like Cookie Maven and several local food trucks providing food for the staff to enjoy. Then we went on to review the Temple University Middle School study. Mrs. Pouch reported that the district was asked to participate in a research study in math regarding the relationship between fractions and algebra post-COVID-19. This study is optional for teachers and students to participate in. Letters will be sent home to parents with all pertinent information and a permission slip to participate. We then discussed the YMCA clubs for Readington. Dr. Hart shared that the club listings that the YMCA could provide to students in grades K through 5 after school on campus. The sessions that were chosen this spring include Minecraft Club at Hollenbrook School and Dream Through STEAM and Y Chefs at White House School and Three Bridges. Sessions would begin March 10th. There's a fee to participate this year since the district does not have funds from ESSER to cover the cost. And the agenda items are field trips, fundraisers, YMCA clubs, and the Temple study. Next meeting is scheduled for March 28th at 8:30 a.m.
Thank you. So we have 5 items, 4.01 to 4.05. Can I please get a motion in a second?
I just have a quick question though. The Temple University study, what grade level is that for?
It's going to be optional for grades 6, 7, and 8. So any middle school teacher and or student that participates, it'll be optional for them.
Make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, any other discussion items? Okay, Mr. Bowman.
Mrs. Cassidy,
Yes.
Mr. Lopes,
Yes.
Mrs. Menzer,
Yes.
Mrs. Buckhorst,
Yes.
Mrs. Rad,
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan,
Yes.
Mrs. DePinto,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo.
Yes.
Passes.
All right, the next committee report is personnel.
I have a committee report from, we met, it's not being up here, but about a week ago. And we discussed staffing updates, both for the current school year, 2024 to 2025, and next school year, 2025 to 2026. We discussed special education programs, enrollment, and staffing. We also talked about the Director of Pupil Services search, then staffing projections for 2025-2026 year, preschool enrollment for 2025-2026 year, and various personnel matters. Agenda items include substitutes, new hires, leaves, retirements, and other leave, and schedule the next meeting for March 21st at 8:30.
Thank you. So we have 9 items in personnel, 5.01 to 5.09. Can I get a motion in a second?
Christina.
Second. Any discussion on the items? Okay, thank you. Next one is policy and communication. Roll call. Oh, I forgot to roll.
Mrs. Cassidy,
Yes.
Mr. Lopes,
Yes.
Ms. Menzer,
Yes.
Mrs. Byborski,
Yes.
Mrs. Rad,
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan,
Yes.
Mrs. DePinto,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo.
Yes.
Passes.
Thank you. All right, now the next item is communication. I don't think we have a committee report, right?
Yeah, we met yesterday. The minutes will be read out at the next meeting.
Okay. We just have one motion to adopt 6.01. Can I get a motion in a second?
I'll move. Ellen?
I'll second.
Okay, perfect. Any discussion? All right, let's have a roll call vote.
Mrs. Cassidy,
Yes.
Mr. Lopes,
Yes.
Ms. Menzer,
Yes.
Mrs. Byborski,
Yes.
Ms. Rad,
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan,
Yes.
Mrs. DePinto,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo.
Yes.
Passes.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business from the board members? Okay. All right, so let's move to new business from the board. I know we have a green committee meeting right out, so and we're going to be reading that.
I'll take it. The Green Committee met on Thursday, February 20th at 3:30 p.m. We welcomed new members, Pamela Cassidy, David Rizza, and Robert Becker. Mrs. Fiore opened the meeting and welcomed new committee members. Board members, Mrs. Cassidy and Mr. Rizza introduced themselves. Mr. Becker, the Township Committee's Environmental Commission Chair and Facilitator of the Municipality's Sustainable Jersey Program since 2010, introduced himself and said that the township is also recertifying this year for Sustainable Jersey. We started with a strategic focus for the 24-25 school year. Mr. Bonham shared the strategic focus and action plan tracking documents with the committee and invited members of the committee to come to the April meeting with ideas for strategic goals for next year. Mr. Rizza presented slides about the Green Committee's accomplishments over the years and current major initiatives. He also showed the cost savings to the district since the inception of the Green Committee. One of the committee's strategic focus areas is communication, and this presentation is a great tool to share the history and success of the district's green initiatives with the public. Mr. Worley thanked Mr. Rizza for the presentation. It's fantastic. Everyone should look at it. Mrs. Fiore presented a draft of a climate action plan that was mentioned last meeting based off of discussions with Prince George's County School District's climate action plan. This plan shows what actions the district has already taken and potential goals for the future. Committee members are invited to provide feedback and new ideas to be included in the plan. Action items from Sustainable Jersey can also be added. Mrs. Betterman suggested that the plan include initiatives that were on previous tracking documents, such as the initiative to encourage outdoor activities in schools, such as outdoor classrooms, field trips, and recess. Mrs. Orlandi suggested that the 8th grade community service and field trip projects be added to the plan. Mr. Bowman mentioned the township's natural resource inventory as a resource for items to be included in the plan. Second, we discussed Pillar 1 to reduce environmental impact and costs. There was a referendum public presentation. Mr. Bowman invited members to attend the February 25th board meeting where the referendum would be discussed. He and Mr. Race invited members of the Green Committee to contact them if committee members have ideas about incorporating green practices into the different referendum projects. The solar array expansion, and Mr. Bowman updated the committee on the progress of the solar expansion project. The legal documents are in the final stages of completion with an anticipated groundbreaking date late June. Electric school buses. Mr. Bowman updated the committee on the electric school bus grants the district has been awarded, along with a list of other districts who have also received these grants. There is a federal grant for one electric bus and charger. This bus is currently in use. There is a state grant for 2 electric buses and chargers. These buses are currently being discussed in the Finance Committee. Safety and fire risk videos. Mr. Lopes shared videos with the committee about fire risks to be aware of for electric school buses. Mrs. Cassidy offered some data to show that while all buses have risk of fire, diesel and gas are more likely to catch fire. We then moved on to Pillar 2 to improve the health and wellness of school students and staff. Related to communication, Mr. Bowman shared links to recent articles in district which highlight green initiatives. And Dr. Hart shared that he was selected to be featured in the NJSBA School Leader Magazine feature for Sustainable New Jersey for Schools 10th anniversary article with several other school districts who stand out for their sustainability programs. Moved on to Pillar 3, provide environmental education, STEM civic skills, green career pathways. pathways, etc. For the Arbor Day Shade Tree Commission plantings, Dr. Hart shared a letter he received from the Hunterdon County Engineer, Department of Public Works, regarding shade tree plantings on school grounds. White House School is planning to plant a tree for Arbor Day, and through a partnership with the Township Environmental Commission, each third grader receives a sapling to take home and plant. Hollenbrook School will also receive trees. For Wellness District Policy 8505 update, Dr. Hart shared a link to the Wellness Policy 8505 that was approved at the January 21st Board of Ed meeting. This policy helps with the district's Sustainable Jersey recertification, and the final adopted version incorporated ideas generated from the Green Committee like outdoor classrooms and field trips. For Sustainable Jersey recertification grants in the municipality, Dr. Hart reported that the district submitted the district's application in January during the first round. Sustainable Jersey will provide feedback, and then the final application is due in June. Dr. Hart thanked all of the members of the team who helped with the application. It is a huge undertaking, and your work is certainly appreciated. We finished up with unfinished and new business. Mr. Livingston expressed concern about potentially disbanding the Green Committee. As a former Board of Education member and founding member of the Green Committee, he touted the great successes he has seen over the years. Several other committee members expressed positive comments about the effectiveness and importance of the committee's work and their desire to see it continue. Our next Green Committee meeting will be Thursday, April 3rd at 3:30 p.m.
Thank you very much, Kathleen.
And now I've lost my notes. Okay.
Does anyone have any comments on that discussion?
I have two questions. For one, recertifying for the Sustainable Jersey, does that mean we would get like an additional grant? I think it was 10,000 with that. Could be wrong.
Not necessarily. I believe you have to be certified through Sustainable Jersey to even be eligible for the grants. So what our recertification application does is unlock an opportunity for grants through Sustainable Jersey. In fact, I was just looking at the email they sent us today with our first cycle. And we have, some action items to revise, but they also put in the email a whole list of grants that we may be eligible for should we choose to apply. So the opportunity is there if we're recertifying.
So it's like a two-step process.
It's 2 steps. It's
Okay.
like certification first, grant second.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then can that presentation be shared with, I don't know if that was shared to the entire board or I've seen it.
It was not. We
Okay.
we emailed today.
Yeah, we did. We talked about it.
Yeah.
So we're gonna share it with the board after this call, so everyone has it, and then we're discussing the best way to share it with the public as well. So we're gonna make it available both to the board and to the public.
Thank you.
And just from the timeline of the certification with Dr. Hart, when is
The second review of applications is in March, so we can submit more action items for review and then get feedback for the final review, which I believe is in early June. We may not know about our award status until late summer, early fall. That would be the timeline.
any other questions, thoughts? Okay. I don't know if there's any delegate reports. All
I have
right.
one, but I will be very brief. The Garden State Coalition of Schools met on February 19th. They had a guest speaker, Rosara Bagley, an assemblywoman who's a legislator and educator. She mostly answered questions and spoke about the uncertainty of what's going on with federal edicts, uncertainty around budgets and funding cuts and how that's going to impact classrooms. She said federal grants may be tied to other requirements, which might fund private or charter schools through school choice over the public schools. She talked about funding could be canceled for teacher development, around student-free and reduced lunches. She discussed how a new governor next year could significantly impact state funding as well. She talked about the 3% reduction in state aid that's coming through, which may be discretionary, not every district will be impacted. And interestingly, she discussed teacher certification reform, which I hadn't really thought about before, but apparently there was a push to increase the rigor of teacher certifications, and the claims are that it's not necessarily improving our school performance, but rather it's limiting the number of teachers that we're able to attract for a team. Went into an executive session, and They talked about of the executive orders that were issued, 5 were impacting school districts. They talked a little bit about bills that are coming through around toxic shock syndrome, warning, training, and health and PE curriculum, around requirements for cursive instruction, and around private businesses being able to donate to the public. So they are taking positions on all of those and will be sharing them with us. That's it.
Right, thank you. And one thing you mentioned about the 3% legislative, I think that's up to 3%, right? Mr. Bowman, if you want to maybe add into that.
No, I would just say that the governor had his address today. State aid won't be known until Friday, but the governor address increased overall K-12 aid as well as preschool aid. So that's good overall news. We won't know our direct impact till Friday.
Okay. Any other comments, discussion? Perfect. Okay, the next item on it is public comments. Once again, if you have comments you'd like to make, please come to the podium, state your name, your town. I was writing your name, right? Please state your name and town, and let us know your thoughts. Okay, perfect. Now we'll just move on to adjournment. So can I get a motion to, and a second to adjourn the meeting?
Motion.
All
Second.
right. Well,
Mrs. Cassidy?
Yes.
Mr. Lobos?
yes.
Mrs. Menser?
Yes.
Mrs. Bogorski?
Yes.
Mrs. Rad?
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan?
Yes.
Mrs. Pinto?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo?
Yes. All right. Well, thank you for coming to our meeting today.
Don't go anywhere because I have to take your picture for the yearbook.
It looks like
It was like, how is it 7?